Chosen one, listen closely for a moment because what I'm about to tell you may explain the very confusion you've been carrying in this season. There is something happening around you that most people cannot see. Something shifting in the unseen realm. Something stirring in the depths of your spirit. And here's the shocking truth. God is elevating you in ways that look nothing like elevation to the people watching you. You are stepping into a divine rising that others have completely misread. They think you're shrinking, withdrawing, losing momentum, becoming distant, or going quiet. They've mistaken your transition for trouble, your refinement for retreat, your separation for struggle. They've interpreted your stillness as stagnation and your silence as weakness. But they have no idea, absolutely no idea, what God is building inside you right now. Because elevation never begins on the outside. It begins underground, in the unseen places, in the hidden rooms of your spirit, where only God is allowed to enter. And when heaven starts upgrading someone, the world often mislabels the process. People misinterpret what they cannot spiritually discern. They create stories around what they don't understand. They assume your season based on what their natural eyes can see. But what if the very things people misunderstand about you right now are the clearest signs that God is actually lifting you higher? What if the things they've judged, the moments they've questioned, the shifts they've misread, are the very confirmations you've been praying for? You may have felt misunderstood lately, even misread by friends, family, or people who used to know you. They sense something different about you, but instead of recognizing your growth, they attach the wrong meaning to your transformation. They say you've changed, but they don't realize that you were supposed to. They say you're distant, not understanding that God pulled you away to protect your elevation. They say you're quiet, not knowing heaven has been speaking to you louder than ever. Chosen one, what if the misunderstanding is the prophecy? What if the misreading is the signal? What if the very confusion surrounding your life right now is the proof that God is rearranging you for a higher place? There is a reason you're here listening to this word. A reason your spirit stopped and leaned in. A reason this message found you at this exact moment. You are not in the wrong season, you're in the rising season. And by the time we journey through this message together, you will understand the deeper truth behind the misinterpretation, the shift, and the elevation God is quietly unfolding in your life. Now, let's continue. Because what I need to reveal next carries divine weight. Because what you're feeling right now, that quiet tug in your spirit, that unmistakable sense that something sacred is unfolding, is not your imagination. It is heaven leaning closer. It is God drawing you into understanding. It is the divine hand that has been guiding your steps, revealing itself not through spectacle, but through recognition, through revelation, through the soft awakening that says, "This message is for you." There are moments in a chosen person's life when God Himself interrupts the noise of the world to whisper a truth that cannot be ignored. And this is one of those moments. You didn't stumble into this word. You were led, pulled, aligned. There is a divine intention resting on every sentence you're hearing right now. These aren't just words, they're echoes of something God has already been saying to your spirit in pieces, in dreams, in quiet intuitions, in moments when you couldn't explain why you felt heaven stirring inside you. And now God is bringing clarity to what has felt confusing. He is bringing illumination to what was hidden in shadows. He is giving language to what you have sensed but could not fully articulate. Because elevation is a spiritual operation long before it becomes a visible event, and God wants you to know. You are not being overlooked, abandoned, or misunderstood by accident. You are being prepared. You see, when God elevates someone, He does not announce it to the crowd first. He speaks privately to the one He is raising. He goes into the quiet rooms of the heart and begins shaping identity, strengthening resolve, stripping away false attachments, and awakening purpose. And while others may misread your shifting, God is saying, I know exactly what I'm doing. The misunderstanding is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of divine involvement. People cannot interpret what heaven is still writing. They cannot measure a season they were not invited into. They cannot discern a transformation that God concealed for your protection. And right now, heaven wants you to hear this. I am the one shifting you. I am the one elevating you. I am the one separating you. And I will be the one to reveal you when the time is right. Feel the weight of that for a moment. Let it settle into the deepest places of your being. Let it steady you. Because God is not just watching over your life, He is actively orchestrating it. He is placing you in rooms you haven't entered yet. He is preparing conversations you haven't heard yet. He is aligning opportunities you haven't seen yet. Elevation is unfolding beneath the surface, and misinterpretation is simply the veil that keeps others from disrupting what God is building. This is why your spirit feels stretched, why your emotions feel tender, why your discernment has sharpened, why your tolerance for empty things has vanished. God is not merely shifting your circumstances, He is shifting you. And as you continue listening, He will reveal the deeper truth behind what is happening in your life. Not with fear, not with confusion, but with the clarity and authority that comes only when heaven speaks. Now, let's go deeper. Because what God is unveiling next will help you see your season from His perspective, not theirs. And as we move deeper into this moment, I want you to truly open your spirit. Because what I'm about to unveil isn't just insight, it's prophecy. It is the unveiling of what God has been doing behind the scenes long before the season shifted on the surface. You've been feeling the symptoms of elevation without understanding the process. Now heaven is giving you the language for it. Here is the truth. God is elevating you in a way that requires misunderstanding. Not by accident, not as a punishment, but by design. There are seasons where God cannot allow others to correctly interpret what He is doing in your life. Why? Because correct interpretation often invites unwanted involvement. And unwanted involvement can interrupt divine timing. So instead, God cloaks your elevation in camouflage. He hides His work in you behind a veil of misinterpretation so the wrong people will step back while the right thing is being formed. Yes, the very misunderstanding that has wounded you has also protected you. People have looked at your silence and assumed loss, not knowing God was downloading revelation. They've seen you withdraw and assumed decline, not realizing God was sanctifying your environment. They've noticed you stop explaining yourself and mistook it for weakness, not wisdom. They interpreted your stillness as shrinking when heaven was actually positioning you for expansion. This is the prophecy. God is elevating you in a dimension that the natural eye cannot decode. You are in a divine metamorphosis, a spiritual unfolding that requires seclusion, concealment, and consecration. And because others cannot see the spiritual construction taking place inside you, they assume it's destruction. They misread your obedience as instability. They misread your shift as confusion. They misread your pruning as punishment. But God is saying, what they cannot see I am using. What they misinterpret I am blessing. What they call loss I call preparation. Your elevation is not loud, it is surgical. Not public, but precise. Not rushed, but intentional. God has been cutting away distractions, removing counterfeit connections, and silencing the noise around you, so He can amplify the voice within you. You may have felt stripped, but the stripping was sacred. You may have felt emptied, but the emptying was necessary. You may have felt alone, but solitude became the sanctuary, where God reconstructed your identity. Listen closely. You are rising, but it doesn't look like rising yet. It looks like questioning. It looks like pruning. It looks like separation. It looks like unfamiliarity. It looks like transition. Elevation rarely feels like elevation. In the beginning, it feels like breaking. But in God's hands, breaking is building. Resistance is redirection. Delay is development. And silence is strategy. This is why you've been sensing a subtle shift inside you. A shift you can't dismiss, a knowing you can't ignore, a spiritual anticipation you can't explain. Something in you recognizes that the environment around you no longer matches the identity God is awakening within you. You don't fit where you used to. You don't desire what you once craved. You don't tolerate what you once accepted. And you don't feel at home in spaces that once felt familiar. That displacement is the prophecy. That discomfort is your confirmation. That misalignment is heaven announcing elevation. But here is the deeper revelation. God is not just elevating your life, He is elevating your spirit. Your discernment is rising. Your awareness is rising. Your wisdom is rising. Your authority is rising. Your identity is rising. Before God elevates your position, He elevates your perception. And that is why your season feels so misunderstood, because people who haven't grown with you can't interpret the version of you that's emerging. They see your surface, but God sees your spirit. They see your situation, but God sees your future. They see your now, but God sees your next. So hear this in your spirit. God is elevating you quietly, strategically, and supernaturally, while allowing others to misread your season, so their misunderstanding cannot interfere with your rising. Your story is still unfolding. Your purpose is still expanding. Your elevation is already in motion. And now, we go deeper into the meaning behind it all. And as this revelation settles into your spirit, something else becomes clear. God does not elevate you around people first. He elevates you away from them. That separation you have been wrestling with was not a social shift. It was a spiritual necessity. God had to disconnect you from interpretations that were too small for the assignment He's awakening within you. Because throughout Scripture and throughout spiritual patterns, elevation has always been misunderstood at first. It is a divine theme repeated again and again. Joseph was elevated, but his brothers misread it as arrogance. David was elevated, but his family misread it as insignificance. Moses was elevated, but Israel misread him as unqualified. Esther was elevated, but her people misread her silence as fear. Jesus himself was elevated, but his generation misread him entirely. This is a spiritual law. Elevation often emerges in a form people don't recognize until God reveals it. And that is exactly where you are. This season is not misread because something is wrong with you. It is misread because something is right with you. God has placed you in a divine cocoon, and from the outside, cocoons look like confinement. They look restrictive. They look limiting. They look like nothing is happening. But inside, transformation is underway. Identity is being rewritten. Destiny is being formed. If others understood your season too soon, they would try to shape it according to their comfort, not God's calling. They would offer opinions where God is offering instruction. They would influence what heaven is trying to refine. They would try to hold you in who you used to be, while God is trying to pull you into who you are becoming. This is why misunderstanding surrounds your life right now. It creates sacred space for spiritual recalibration. It forces people to step back so God can step in. And here is the deeper meaning. Misreading is a divine filter. It filters out the ones who are attached to your past, but not assigned to your future. It filters out the curious, but keeps the committed. It exposes who truly discerns your spirit and who only monitors your steps. It reveals who sees you with heaven's eyes and who views you through the lens of familiarity. God will often allow misunderstanding because it reveals the spiritual capacity of the people around you. Elevation requires accuracy, and accuracy requires alignment. Not everyone has the spiritual bandwidth to walk with you into your next dimension. This is also why your emotions have been in unfamiliar territory. You're not just feeling change, you're sensing spiritual shifting. Your spirit is detecting what your mind hasn't fully processed yet, that the season you're stepping into requires a different version of you, and not everyone can come with you. This is the sacred tension of elevation. You feel pulled higher but misunderstood lower. You feel closer to God, but farther from people. You feel more aligned internally, but more misread externally. You feel more spiritually awake, but less socially understood. But this tension is purposeful. It's holy. It's prophetic. God uses misinterpretation to protect the early stages of elevation. He covers your rising with mystery, because mystery keeps manipulation away. He conceals your growth until the roots are strong enough to sustain the weight of being seen. If God revealed everything too soon, the wrong people would claim ownership over what He is building. They would attach themselves to your rising, but abandon you in your pruning. They would celebrate your elevation, but resist your transformation. So God hides you until you are whole enough to stand revealed without shrinking back. Chosen one. The deeper meaning of your misunderstood season is this: God is elevating you internally before He elevates you visibly. Your spirit is rising before your circumstances reflect it. Your identity is strengthening before your platform expands. Your vision is sharpening before your opportunities open. You are in divine preparation, not public validation. That is why the misreading does not disqualify you. It confirms you. And now, with that foundation laid, let's step into the signs that prove God is elevating you this very moment. Now that your spirit has begun to recognize the deeper meaning behind this season, let's bring it even closer to your life. Because God has not left you without confirmation. He has been placing signs all around you, subtle emotional, spiritual signals that reveal He is elevating you, even while others misinterpret your journey. And as you listen, you may recognize that these signs have been speaking to you all along. Sign 1. Your spirit feels restless even when nothing seems wrong. This isn't anxiety, it's awakening. You feel the pull of something greater even when your surroundings haven't changed yet. It's that unsettled inner stirring that tells you there's more, that you're being stretched, that the current space can no longer contain who you're becoming. Others see your restlessness and assume you're uncertain, but deep inside you know it's spiritual expansion. Sign 2. People misunderstand your silence. Your quietness has increased not because you're fading, but because God has shifted your focus inward. You're observing more, speaking less, and choosing your words carefully. People think you're withdrawing, but heaven knows you're listening. You're no longer reactive, you're receptive. Your silence is sacred, and only those with discernment understand it. Sign 3. Old environments no longer fit you. Places you once tolerated now feel spiritually heavy. Conversations that once interested you now feel empty. You walk into certain rooms and immediately sense you've outgrown them. Others may think you're being distant or selective. But the truth is, God is elevating your frequency. You can't stay where growth has stopped. Sign 4. Your circle has shifted abruptly. People you expected to stay have drifted. People you didn't expect to distance themselves suddenly pull away. Relationships rearranging without conflict, without drama, without explanation, that is divine intervention. God is removing the ones who cannot discern your next level. Their misreading of your season is God's way of easing the separation. Sign 5. You feel an urge to simplify your life, decluttering, reorganizing, letting go even if you can't explain why. You're releasing things that once felt important. You're craving clarity, order, and peace. That's because elevation requires spiritual space. Your spirit knows what your mind hasn't fully processed. God is preparing room for new assignments. Sign 6. You feel spiritually sensitive at a higher level. Your discernment has sharpened. You catch things quickly. You notice shifts in people's intentions. Your intuition is louder. You can sense misalignment instantly. Others might assume you're overthinking, but you're not. Heaven has upgraded your spiritual radar because elevation requires deeper awareness. Sign 7. You feel both excitement and fear at the same time. It's not fear of failure, it's fear of the unknown. It's the trembling that happens when destiny is near. You feel anticipation that doesn't match your current circumstances. It's as if your future is calling your name, even while your present looks unchanged. Others misread it as instability, but it's actually spiritual transition. Sign 8. God has been exposing motives around you. You see people's intentions more clearly. Masks have fallen off, true colors revealed. Conversations feel different. The energy in certain relationships has shifted. You're seeing who genuinely supports you and who only tolerated you. This exposure isn't meant to wound you. It's meant to protect your elevation. God will not let people with unclear intentions have access to your next level. Bonus sign. You feel the urge to step back from certain battles. Not because you're tired, but because you finally understand those battles were beneath you. You no longer have the desire to defend your name, explain your decisions, or prove your worth. This isn't weakness, it's maturity. It's heaven redirecting your focus to what actually matters. And the most powerful confirmation of all, you feel God's hand on your life even when you can't explain why. Something in your spirit knows you're being positioned. Something in you knows this season is intentional. Something in you knows God is preparing to reveal what He's been building in private. Others may misread your season, but you, chosen one, are beginning to recognize it. And now, with these signs clear in your spirit, it's time to confront the challenges that come with this divine elevation. And now that the signs have begun to resonate in your spirit, it's important to recognize something else. Elevation does not come without inner resistance. Not because God is withholding from you, and not because you're doing anything wrong, but because every spiritual rising carries hidden challenges that most people never talk about. These challenges are not evidence that you're failing. They are proof that you are being transformed. One of the first hidden battles is the quiet grief of outgrowing what you once loved. As God elevates you, you begin to lose the comfort of old patterns, familiar environments, and once safe relationships. You feel a subtle sadness when you realize that certain conversations don't nourish you anymore, or that certain people can no longer walk with you. It's not bitterness, it's spiritual evolution. But this grief can feel heavy because it forces you to choose between who you used to be and who God is shaping you to become. There is also the internal war between your spirit and your schedule. Your spirit wants stillness time with God, clarity, silence. But your schedule pulls you into obligations, expectations, and responsibilities. You feel torn. You feel stretched. You feel like you're trying to balance divine instruction with earthly demands. This tension isn't a sign that you're losing control. It's a sign that God is altering your rhythm so He can introduce a new pace to your life. Another hidden challenge is the discomfort of not having clear answers. You're walking in faith without a blueprint. You're moving without full instructions. You're trusting God while carrying uncertainty in your chest. And even though you know God is guiding you, your mind still craves clarity. Others may judge your unpredictability, but they don't understand the spiritual navigation happening within you. You're learning how to trust God in ways you never trusted Him before. Then there's the isolation you didn't ask for. Not the isolation that comes from being alone, but the kind that comes from being set apart. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel spiritually singled out. You can't explain your emotions. You can't express your inner shifts. You can't articulate why certain things no longer resonate. And though people may misinterpret your distance, God uses this isolation to whisper things into your spirit that no one else is meant to hear. One of the hardest hidden challenges is the weight of becoming someone new, while others cling to who you used to be. They remember your past, your mistakes, your struggles, your old habits. But God sees who you are becoming. It's painful when others treat your transformation like a phase, or doubt your shift, or resist your growth. Yet even this is purposeful, because only those who can honor your elevation will be permitted to walk into your next chapter. And finally, there's the pressure of carrying something you can feel, but cannot yet name. You sense responsibility, assignment, purpose, destiny, but it's not fully clear. You feel pregnant with something spiritual. You sense movement inside your spirit, even though nothing outside has changed. This pressure is not meant to crush you. It's meant to stretch you into capacity. God is enlarging your spirit to hold what He is preparing to release. These hidden challenges are not signs of weakness. They are signs of becoming. They are spiritual contractions that precede birth. They are the quiet storms that prepare you for the clarity of the next instruction. And that's exactly where we go next, into what God is telling you to do in this season of misunderstood elevation. Now that you understand both the signs and the hidden challenges of your elevation, your spirit is ready for something deeper. The instructions God is placing over your life in this exact season. Because elevation without direction becomes confusion, but elevation with divine instruction becomes destiny. And God has not brought you this far to leave you uncertain. He is speaking clearly, quietly, and purposefully to your spirit right now. Listen closely, because these instructions are not generic. They are specific to where you are, to what you're carrying, and to who you're becoming. Instruction 1. Protect your focus. You are in a holy transition, and this season requires a sharper focus than ever before. Not everyone deserves access to your attention. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not every battle deserves your response. God is calling you to guard your mind, your emotions, and your environment with greater intentionality. What you entertain in this season will either strengthen your elevation or sabotage it. Instruction 2. Embrace the separation even when it feels uncomfortable. Do not cling to what God is removing. Do not chase after what He has released from your life. Do not try to revive what heaven has already buried. The separation you're experiencing is purposeful. It is God clearing the path ahead of you. Let people go if they cannot understand your season. Let environments shift if they no longer align with your spirit. Elevation requires release. Instruction 3. Lean into the quiet. Your spirit is being recalibrated, and that happens in silence. Spend time in stillness. Sit with God without rushing. Listen without forcing clarity. Let silence become a sanctuary rather than an inconvenience. You are being taught to hear God in subtler, deeper ways. Your sensitivity is to being refined, and your spiritual hearing is being upgraded. Don't run from the quiet, step into it. Instruction 4. Move even when you don't have all the answers. You're not meant to have every detail right now. God is teaching you to walk by revelation, not routine. When you sense a pull, respond. When you feel divine discomfort, adjust. When God nudges you, move. You won't always understand the full assignment at the beginning, but obedience opens the door to clarity. Take the step, even if it feels small. Instruction 5. Strengthen your inner life. Your outer elevation is coming, but God is elevating your inner life first. This means nurturing your spirit, praying deeper, listening, longer journaling, what you sense, meditating on what God whispers. Your identity is being fortified from the inside out. Who you are when no one is watching is becoming stronger, more rooted, more aligned. Instruction 6. Forgive quietly and release gracefully. Not for them, for your calling. Unforgiveness is too heavy to carry into your next dimension. Let go of the resentment toward those who misread you, misunderstood you, or misjudged you. They did not have the capacity to see your elevation. Release them with peace. Elevation always requires a lighter heart. Instruction 7. Expect God to move suddenly. Elevation rarely arrives in pieces. It arrives in shifts. One moment you feel hidden, the next moment, heaven reveals you. One door closes without warning, and another opens without explanation. Stay spiritually alert. God is positioning you for sudden movement, and your spirit needs to stay ready. These instructions may stretch you, but that stretching is necessary. Because God is not just elevating your life, He is elevating your identity, your discipline, your awareness, and your capacity. And now that you know what God is asking of you, it's time to receive something just as important. The assurance that you are not walking through this misunderstood season alone. And as these instructions settle into your spirit, I want you to breathe for a moment. Because with every rising comes a quiet fear that whispers, what if I'm not ready? What if I'm alone? What if I make a mistake? But hear this clearly, God has not elevated you into uncertainty. He has elevated you under protection. Even when others misread your season, heaven has not misread you. God has surrounded your path with a covering you cannot always see, but can always feel. Every step you've taken, even the shaky ones, have been guided. Every closed door was intentional. Every delayed answer was protective. Every unexpected separation was God shielding you from influence that could weaken your rising. You have never walked alone, not even in the moments where isolation felt crushing. God was in the silence you couldn't understand. He was in the stillness that felt unfamiliar. He was in the redirection that didn't make sense. You may not have recognized His hand at first, but now you can look back and see the fingerprints of His protection woven through the places you thought were empty. And here is a truth that should anchor your heart. God does not elevate without securing. When He lifts you, He surrounds you. When He calls you higher, He fortifies your foundation. When He increases your influence, He strengthens your spirit. Nothing that is coming will overpower you, because God has already equipped you for it. Nothing that lies ahead will destroy you, because God has already gone before you. Nothing that rises against you will prevail, because heaven has assigned angels to your path. The misunderstandings of others cannot derail you. Their misinterpretation cannot limit you. Their words cannot undo what God has ordained. You are protected in ways they cannot see. You are covered in ways they cannot comprehend. You are held in ways they cannot measure. And beyond protection, God also gives assurance, a deep spiritual knowing that whispers, you are exactly where I need you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are rising even now. Let this assurance wash over you. Let it steady your heart. Let it silence the doubts that try to creep in during the quiet moments. Because the next phase of this journey, the transformation and fulfillment, is where everything begins to make sense. The misreading, the separation, the shifting, the stretching, the silence, the inner work. It all leads to what God is about to reveal next. And now, as we step into this next moment together, I want you to imagine something not with your natural eyes, but with your spirit. Because when God completes the work, He began in your hidden season, the transformation that unfolds is unlike anything you have walked through before. It is not subtle. It is not quiet. It is not easily ignored. It is the kind of shift that heaven orchestrates and earth cannot deny. Your transformation begins the moment God decides you are ready to be revealed. Suddenly, the weight you carried begins to lift. Suddenly, clarity replaces confusion. Suddenly, doors that resisted you for years begin to open with no effort. Suddenly, what felt delayed becomes accelerated. This is the moment you begin to see why God allowed others to misread your season, because He was cultivating a version of you that could not be shaped by their opinions. A version of you that walks in quiet authority. A version of you that no longer craves validation. A version of you that recognizes divine timing instead of earthly deadlines. Your transformation is not just internal. It becomes visible, undeniable, and spiritually radiant. You begin to walk differently. You speak with more conviction. You think with greater depth. You discern with sharper clarity. You move with the confidence of someone who has survived the refining fire and emerged stronger. People around you start noticing something they can't explain. They say you seem lighter, clearer, wiser, stronger. They sense something rising in you, even if they don't have the language for it. The same people who misread your season suddenly pause and reevaluate who you've become. This is the fulfillment of elevation. God reveals what He refined. And when He reveals you, He does it in ways that carry His fingerprints, unmistakable, undeniable, sovereign. Opportunities arrive you never pursued. Conversations open you didn't initiate. People show up who recognize your calling without you having to explain it. Resources align, timing aligns, direction aligns. What once felt scattered suddenly becomes synchronized. But the greatest fulfillment isn't the external breakthrough, it's the internal becoming. You become someone who is no longer shaken by misunderstanding, no longer wounded by misinterpretation, no longer deterred by distance, no longer attached to what God has released. You become the version of you God saw all along, the version that needed isolation to emerge, the version that needed pruning to grow, the version that needed silence to hear, the version that needed separation to rise. This transformation marks the moment you step out of hiding and into holy purpose. It marks the moment where everything clicks. It marks the moment you realize the season others misread was the season God used to prepare you for the very thing you prayed for. And fulfillment doesn't just mean elevation, it means embodiment. You become the calling. You become the vessel. You become the message. You become the assignment. This is the unveiling of God's work in you, and it only comes after the season of being misunderstood. Now that we have walked through your transformation and fulfillment, there is one final moment left. A moment of blessing, affirmation, and prophetic sealing over your life. And now, chosen one, as this message comes to its final breath, I want you to pause and feel the truth of these words settle into your spirit. Because what you've just walked through is not just teaching, it is alignment. It is revelation. It is confirmation of what heaven has already been whispering inside you. So let these affirmations anchor your heart. You are rising even if others cannot see it yet. You are becoming even if others misinterpret the process. You are protected even in the silence. You are guided even in the uncertainty. You are chosen even in the seasons of being misunderstood. Your steps are ordered. Your path is blessed. Your future is unfolding exactly as heaven designed it. There is nothing wrong with you. You did not lose your way. You did not fall behind. You are not being punished. You are being elevated quietly, intentionally, divinely. And may this blessing rest over your spirit. May God surround you with peace that overrides every fear. May clarity rise within you like light breaking through the clouds. May strength return to the places inside you that felt weary. May confidence settle into your identity like a crown. May every step ahead be guided by divine timing and holy alignment. May you walk boldly into the season prepared for you. May you release everything that was never meant to go with you. May you embrace the transformation God has birthed within you. And may you rise fully, freely, and fearlessly into your next level. If this message spoke to you, leave a comment below. Tell me which part resonated. Tell me what sign confirmed your season. Tell me what God whispered to you through this word. And if you haven't yet subscribed, because more prophetic messages are coming, messages that will guide your spirit, strengthen your journey, and support you as you rise into everything God has designed for your life. You are seen, you are called, you are covered, and you are rising even now. Blessings to you, chosen one.